Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared podcast. I'm your host, Austin Creed. My friends, today we're going to be building off of the last couple episodes we've been doing, which is discussing the internal workings of the church and explaining to you why I have a lot of hesitations towards the church and why I believe that the church is part of the problem and maybe it doesn't even realize it. Now, for those of you who haven't listened to the last couple episodes, I don't expect everybody to do so. There are a lot of new people. There are a lot of people who just, people have lives at the bottom line. And so I don't expect you to listen to everything. But in the last couple episodes, we've been talking about how women run the church. Now, I don't want to just talk about how women run the church. I think it's pretty indisputable, in my opinion. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the church itself and what I'm going to call the spirits that haunt the church. Now, I'm not talking about the Haunted Mansion from Disneyland. I'm not talking about some spooky, scary skeletons. No. We're talking about they could be actual spirits, but I'm more talking about the attitudes that have completely consumed so many different people, good and bad, in the church, and why the church is failing. The church is failing for a multitude of reasons, but we're going to highlight a couple reasons right here and right now. First spirit that haunts the church is the Jezebel spirit. Now, who is Jezebel? I'm sure you've heard this on the internet before if you were into the red pill content. Who is Jezebel and why do people call this the Jezebel spirit? Jezebel was the wife of King Ahab in the Old Testament. And she was known for being a temptress, somebody who knew how to manipulate not only her man, but people in general to get what she wanted. It is built off of female manipulation. Now, this builds directly on what we've talked about in the past, which is that women run the church using men as puppets. This is built on the Jezebel spirit. It is a subtle defiance, not outright, that's a different spirit entirely. But is manipulation, it is running the show from the shadows. It is the subtle manipulation and positioning of peoples and ideas that allow you to run the show without the consequences of your ideas falling through. This is what the Jezebel spirit is. Jezebel hated Elijah. Does that name sound familiar? He was one of the prophets of ancient Israel, one of the most iconic prophets. She hated God, she hated prophets, she hated all these things because they were seen as a direct threat to her ability to manipulate her husband and the people in her country. That is what the Jezebel spirit is. It is the women using and manipulating of people in their lives under the guise of love, under the guise of caring, and under the guise of being there for them. Instead, they are there for themselves and to serve their own wishes. That is the Jezebel spirit. The next spirit is the Lilith spirit. Who is Lilith? Lilith is a figure in Jewish mysticism. She was, and again, if you're a normie Christian, you don't even know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to the Lilith spirit, Lilith was supposedly the first wife of Adam. If you read the account in Genesis, it is talked about. I don't believe it to be necessarily true. I'm just telling you what it is. Lilith was supposedly the first wife of Adam, but she was not submissive to Adam. She didn't listen to God, she didn't listen to Adam, she didn't listen to anybody, and she always wanted dominance. Lilith is the spirit of female defiance, the feminism spirit. If you look, and I'm more Bible heavy in this episode than I usually am, but I'm using it to prove my point and make my case about the spirits that haunt the church. You look at the curse in Genesis chapter 3. The serpent, the man, and the woman were all cursed. Each one was different. Eve's punishment was very specific in that her desire would be for her husband and that he would rule over her. Now, I want to pause right there. The Lilith spirit is the belief that of that very thing. She doesn't want to be her husband. She wants her husband's position in the hierarchy. Did you notice that in that curse? Her desire will be for her husband, but he will rule over her in the way that the man reports to God. That is how it traditionally works in this example. The woman submits to the man submits to God. That is how the hierarchy works in the traditional sense. But in this example, she wants to take his position. She doesn't want to be him. She doesn't want the responsibility that comes with being him. She wants to lead when she wants to lead. She wants to be in charge when she wants to be in charge, and she then wants to not take responsibility when things don't work. Does that sound familiar to you? The cherry picking, the I want to be right here but not here, the I want to lead here but I want you to lead there, the constant goal shifting, that's what he's talking about. Yes, this is not new. Modern women are not suddenly different than women that have ever existed. This is not true. It's always been like this. It's just not been as overt as it is now because of social media, because of the culture we live in, and so on and so forth. But that is the Lilith spirit. The Lilith spirit is the act of defiance against God, against man, and the inherent distaste and hatred for men via jealousy. Sigmund Freud had his own spin on this. He called it penis envy. This is not new. This is just the spiritual twist on old ideas. Those are the first two spirits that haunt the church. We're going to go to the next one. The Skiva spirit. What the heck is a Skiva spirit? Well, the Skiva the seven sons of Skiva, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, are mentioned in Acts chapter 19, verse 24. And they were Jewish exorcists. Yes, they exist. And they were trying to cast out a demon using the name of Paul, the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, and Jesus. Now, what's interesting in the story is the demon responds to the sons, and he says, I know Jesus. I know Paul. I don't know you. And then proceeds to attack them. Now, you might say, Austin, well, what does this have to do with the spirit? What does it mean? The Skiva spirit is misplaced passion. Misplaced passion. What do I mean by that? What I mean is this. There are a lot of people who have a lot of passion about religion. But here's the problem. They have passion. They don't have direction. For example, they will bring up, hey, you know what? We should have marriage. You know what? We should have people be moral. Hey, you know, we should and could in this and that. But this is the issue. It's misplaced passion because guess what? We don't live in a time where everything is enforced. We don't live in a time where they say, hey, don't have sex before marriage. Oh, and by the way, if you do, we're going to punish you. Hey, if you do, there is a punishment that accompanies your bad choices. Yes, there was a time where that actually happened. Now we don't have that. Now we have the exact opposite of that, especially for women. Look, I'm not here to tell you we need to live in a theocracy. What I'm telling you is this. This is the part that pastors leave out. They leave out what I just told you, which is called context. They leave out the, hey, you know what? Don't fornicate. Don't commit adultery. Don't do these things because we're giving you a wife. And if you cheat or she cheats, it's a crime punishable by getting deleted. Okay? Today, you don't do that. Today, you don't do that. I'm not even saying you should. I'm saying it's not going to happen. So, When you leave out one half and you want the other half to not change, it's not realistic. It's not something that makes logical sense. That's why I'm saying it's misplaced passion. They're saying the right things, but the actions have consequences that are beating people up in the court of public opinion, beating them up in divorce courts, beating them up in family court. These are things that are happening, but are not being addressed with the level that it deserves. The whole past that these women have, the bad investments, the bad choices, all these things they bring in are not being discussed by these pastors, by these elders, by these leaders who should be telling you this. They're passionate about this topic, like me, but they won't tell you what I just told you. Why? It affects their bottom line, which is the next one. Number 4, spirits that haunt the church. Number 4, the Judas spirit. The trading silver for your soul. The pastors who put the money, the tithing, the social media views ahead of their own flock. They trade their flocks for the fleeting opinions and political clout that they want. Does that sound familiar to you? It should, because we see that a lot. That's another problem in the church. People who use it for financial gain, not for the financial betterment of their flocks and the shepherding of their souls. They don't do that. Not all, but it is a spirit in the church that is dangerous. It ties in the other ones. You could have multiple of these, by the way. You don't need to have just one. You can have multiple of these. You could even have all of them, potentially. But you can have more than one. And this right here is the very thing that I'm talking about. Trading silver for your soul, in the sense that you're trading money for the souls of the people you're supposed to be shepherding. You might think I'm doing that. I make no money off this right now. I don't have enough followers to be monetized like that. I don't. That might change. But even then, you think I gain anything by telling you the truth the way this is? I'm giving y'all so much game right now, I should be getting paid. But I'm not. Why? Because this message to me is more important than money. If I can help save your life, if I can help you save yourself from a bad choice that maybe you didn't even know you were making, that's worth it to me. You might resonate with everything I've said so far or none of it, and I'm not done yet. But this is something that's important to you. And once you start to see these spirits unfold in your church, online, or in anywhere else, you will not be able to unsee them. Number 5 of list of spirits that haunt the church. Number 5, the Ahab spirit. We talked about Jezebel. Who is Ahab? Ahab was Jezebel's husband. You might ask me, well, Austin, you've been talking about Jezebel. I mean, what does Ahab have to do with anything? Well, I'll tell you. Ahab was a weak king and a weak man. He let himself be used by his wife under the guise of love. Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar to you that certain pastors basically let their wives run the church using them as a proxy? Does that sound familiar to you? Women holding their vaginas hostage against you unless you do what they want, bait and switching you 10 years into the marriage, and you don't. This is what I'm talking about. Ahab was the spirit of male weakness, male abdication. He didn't take charge. He didn't lead, which was his job as king. He abdicated the throne to be loved. He abdicated the throne to make people happy. His job was not to make people happy. His job was to make people listen to the crown, to listen to God. That was his job. He did none of those things. He abdicated his job to please his wife, to please the people who liked his wife. This is what I want to tell you, gentlemen. You could be in a Christian marriage listening to the show right now. If you run your house and you let your wife and you live this happy wife, happy life, You are not a masculine man. You have the Ahab spirit. You are not leading in a traditional Christian masculine way. You are not. I don't care what you think. And if your first instinct is to call me names, you've proven my point. That is the Ahab spirit. Male abdication of responsibility. Responsibility to lead by example. Responsibility to go out and conquer. To be a steward of the things you've been given. That is leadership. That is being a man, not a male. The Ahab spirit is very prevalent in the church. Very prevalent. Male abdication of responsibility. Women with the Jezebel spirit want you to have the Ahab spirit. That's why they try to make you emasculated. That's why they try to take your role. That's why they try to make you weak. Because they want to make you malleable to them. So they can have your role with no responsibility attached to it. Because if something goes wrong, guess who's taking the fall? You. Because you are technically still in charge, but you're letting her run the show in your name. And that is why it's called male abdication. The last one, number 6, the Pharisee spirit. I have all the book knowledge and no concept of reality. Does that sound familiar to you? It should. Having no reality, no concept of reality at all. That is the last one, the Pharisee spirit. And let me tell you this. There are so many men out here who have this. There are even women in the church who have this. You need to be understanding of the world you live in, because if you are not, you will unintentionally lead people astray. You will tell them to do something that will lead them down a dark road where they will not be able to recover. They will do the right thing for the wrong reasons and end up with the wrong results. You can write that one down. That is the Pharisee spirit. The Pharisees had all the knowledge in the world, and guess what? They missed what was right in front of them. They missed the fulfillment of the law, the prophets. They missed all of it because they were so focused on being right. They were so focused on righteous indignation that they failed to see what was in front of their faces. You, my friends, have to understand that this is prevalent and to know what to do about it when you see it. Understand these spirits that haunt the church. Understand how they could be affecting your life at this very moment. And what are you going to do about it? If the answer is nothing, then you get what you deserve. If your answer is to go out there and do something about it, good. That means you learned something today, and as a teacher, I'm proud of you. You let me know, did I miss anything on the list? Should I add to it? Let me know. I built this while I was at church this morning, listening to a pastor in his mid-30s with his hat backwards, talking to me like a gym bro about the Bible, and it made me sick. Let me know what you think. Did I miss anything? Should I add to it? Do you want to add to it? Let me know what you have to say. Till next time, I'm out of here. Peace.